The BWU and BWA are meeting at the Labour Department in another attempt to settle their impasse. Government congratulates Rihanna on winning the American Music Association's Iconic Award. And in sports, St. Michael are first into the inter-parish cricket playoffs.
With the compliments of Globe Finance, those are the headlines of tonight's edition of the Evening News. Next on CBC.
Credible, balanced, committed. This is the CBC Evening News.
A very good evening to you. I'm Pearson Bowen. This is the CBC Evening News. Officials of the Barbados Workers Union and the management of the Barbados Water Authority are locked in talks at the Labour Department under the chairmanship of Labour Minister Dr. Estobiar Suku. Those talks started around 5:30 in another attempt to broker a settlement in the dispute that saw hundreds of BWA workers on the picket lines. Yesterday, the two sides met for almost 3 hours to thrash out the various issues. This is following another meeting on Tuesday night where there were heated discussions for about 5 hours. Both Dr. Estobiar Suku and Sir Roy have told reporters the talks this evening are unlikely to resolve the dispute and that more discussions will follow.
I expect we will make headway, but as I said, I'm not rushing the process. These are issues that are long-standing. They predate 2006. So I don't expect we're going to solve them all tonight. I think what we're going to agree to is mechanisms we can put in place to further examine the issues and come to a resolution.
Barbados is producing most of what's consumed on the island, and according to Minister of Agriculture Dr. David Estwick, the contribution of agriculture to the island is far greater than touted, and he says there is evidence to support this. He was at the time addressing the launch of the first ever food production zone at the Glebe St. George.
We produce about 60 to 65% of all of the consumption in Barbados. And there are only about 15 to probably 20 different items that we import heavily in Barbados. How many of you are aware that we are almost totally self-sufficient in eggs, pork, chicken, a lot of vegetables that we are self-sufficient in?
Dr. Estwick also revealed that the current rebate system was redesigned to provide more assistance to farmers.
So that we have an upfront allocation that a farmer would normally have, where he would have to purchase and then go to the Ministry of Agriculture and get a rebate. Now what we are doing is that we are advancing upfront that same quantum that the farmer would get in the rebate upfront, which will offset his initial cash flow purchases at the particular point of purchase. That can be done for individual farmers, and I have asked the ministry to move towards executing it for the entire cooperative structure.
Some praise from government for Barbadian Grammy Award winner Rihanna for achieving the first ever AMA Icon Award. Minister of Culture Stephen Lashley, in a public congratulatory message, says Rihanna's recent success reinforces that the arts can be a viable employment alternative. He says the achievement is a triumph not only for the Barbadian cultural ambassador, but to her family and the island.
I expect that Rihanna will continue to climb from one achievement to another. She certainly has the kind of commitment, and she's shown that she has the kind of popular support across the world to be able to do great things. Just to consider that, certainly in terms of her global sales.
Mr. Lashley says Rihanna's attainment of the inaugural award will serve as a source of inspiration for young artists in Barbados.
She paves a way, certainly for many of our emerging artists to move on to the international stage. All of this, of course, is happening at a time that we consider to be very exciting for us. We have just had the Culture Industries Bill passed in both houses of Parliament, and we are currently in implementation stage before we move to having the bill proclaimed, hopefully early in the new year. But we are quite serious about providing a platform for the growth of the cultural industries.
Opposition leader Mia Mottley has some doubts about whether a loan for $150 million being sought by government will be enough to address Barbados' financial needs. Details of the 5-year loan were tabled in Parliament on Tuesday night by Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs, Chris Sinclair.
Even when we get this loan, it will not be sufficient to bridge the gap and to close the financing of the deficit. In March of this year, the government said they needed a minimum of $350 million, 175 million US in foreign financing. And by the middle of the year, it became 250 million US. We all know, because they went for the bond, which they did not get, which they pulled, and which they found every possible reason other than the state of the Barbados economy to be attributed for the reason why they did not get the bond.
Ms. Mottley has also expressed concern about some of the conditions contained in the loan agreement, which is designed to boost the foreign reserves up to $1.2 billion. A frigate of the Royal Navy is expected to be part of this year's Independence Day activities. The HMS Lancaster, now in the Bridgetown port, forms part of the Caribbean's fight against the trafficking of illegal drugs. Commander Peter Lawton says the vessel, which also provides humanitarian assistance to 6 Caribbean nations, was part of a successful counter-narcotics campaign between July and August this year.
This ship has been hugely successful in its 6 months deployed to the Caribbean, and I think the key figures that I can tell you that's up to nearly 2 tons of drugs have been interdicted and recovered, and we're talking there of a street value of up to £160 million, so in excess of $200 million worth of illicit drugs that have been disrupted and recovered. And of course, you know, for every ton of drugs that we have been able to find, you know, what else has been disrupted and thrown over the side before we can actually get there. So, you know, at least a couple of £100 million we've disrupted, and that's just drugs that would otherwise flow onto the streets and provide their evil, you know, in various countries.
Well, the children of the Wills Primary School have learned to help those that are in need. As part of an outreach program, today the students reenacted the human chain link that took part in 1979 to raise funds for the needy. Some $30,000 were raised last year, and coordinator of Helping Hands of Wills Primary School, Alice George, says that they hope to raise more.
But it's not only about the raising of the money. The children are learning how to reach out to those who are less privileged than they are.
And Vice President of the charity, Sarah Edwards, says it allows the children to practice generosity, noting that they are happy for the opportunity to help.
It feels really nice and exciting because I like helping. Here, when we're such a small school, but we have such a big program that reaches out to a lot of charities and a lot of needy children in Barbados.
That was the head girl of the primary school, Zara Owen, who says she enjoyed the outreach program as it helps the elderly as well. We do apologize for the unavailability of the insert. Another Barbadian man has reached a coveted Barbados birthday milestone. He's Whitstanley Spooner of St. Barnabas, St. Michael. He celebrated his 100th birthday today with a visit from Governor General Sir Elliot Belgrave. Family and friends were also present for his big occasion. Mr. Spooner, popularly known as Bash the Mobby Man, sold mobby and lemonade on the wharf for more than 40 years. His customers were the ship workers and shoppers in Bridgetown. The centenarian has 1 child, 7 grandchildren and 6 great-grands. On the 1-year anniversary of the local film Chrissy, the producers have announced they will soon be going into production for an action movie called Vigilante: The Crossing. Marcia and David Weeks say after 17 consistent weeks at the Olympus Theatre, Chrissy was screened to an overwhelmingly positive response in North America. The team says there are plans to have the movie translated to French and Portuguese so it can be seen in Africa. Ms. Weeks said Vigilante: The Crossing was written before Chrissy, but it's good time for it to be produced.
We had that script even before Chrissy. We really, go by what we're inspired to do. So if we're inspired to do Chrissy now, we do Chrissy now. whatever we feel that we need to address in society, it's not really about the genre for us, but about the message. And so that is really what drives what we do.
Ms. Weeks says Barbados' growing film industry has to form alliances with other established film locations outside of the region.
People are moving in the film industry, are moving from LA, and they're moving to Atlanta, and so it's very important for us to have a very strong relationship with Atlanta, especially if we want to make Barbados the film capital of the Caribbean. That's our mantra, that we want to be able to see production houses come here and film in Barbados, and so I think that Atlanta is a very good model for us to be able to look at.
The Argentine ambassador to Barbados says his South American nation looks forward to reopening its embassy on the island. The embassy was a key talking point when resident ambassador Diego Lemeres paid a courtesy call on Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Senator Maxine McLean. Ambassador Lemeres says the two countries have enjoyed good relations and expressed the hope that they would continue to forge an even stronger bond. Minister McLean, in turn, stated that Barbados hoped to conclude an air services agreement with Argentina as there was interest in accessing its tourist market. Well, if you're traveling along the ABC highway in the area of the CBC, you will not be able to help but notice the sign that adorns our walls outside our TV and radio studios. It's the corporation's 50th anniversary logo. General Manager Rodwell London says the new emblem serves as a powerful symbol of our organization at this time in our history. He says the theme, Proud of Our Past, Embracing the Future, is dedicated to all employees of the CBC and those who've contributed to the success of the entity.
This represents for me the rich heritage of the CBC, which has served the Barbadian community with distinction over the many years. I stand here today on the shoulders of the many individuals, past and present, who have made this organization the great organization that it is. Those who have served this organization in the past should be proud of what they have created for those of us who serve it presently.
Mr. London has lauded the CBC staff who helped in making that event a reality.
Mr. Andy Nurse, who designed the logo, Mr. Maurice Bailey and Mr. Matthew Laurie, who collaborated to have it mounted. They also made sure that it will be lit at night. I must add that I noticed two strong-looking men aiding with the mounting onto the wall, Christopher Wood and Ryan Kennedy. And last but by no means least, Miss Gail Hippolyte, who coordinated the effort to have the logo displayed.
We hear tonight that a St. Lucie teacher is now hospitalized following a stabbing incident at Checker Hall, St. Lucie, just before 6 o'clock this morning. According to police, about 5:55 this morning, 42-year-old Lorna Jordan of Checker Hall was unlocking and entering the preschool located at Checker Hall, where she's employed. It was then that she was attacked by a man dressed in black, sustaining stab wounds about her body. The woman sought refuge at a nearby house and was transported to the QEH by an ambulance. The man escaped at the time. However, a suspect is currently in police custody assisting with investigations. In more crime-related news, the police drug squad personnel are now investigating the discovery of 210 pounds of compressed cannabis found by customs personnel on duty at a business located at Roberts Road, Haggart Hall. Just before 10 o'clock this morning, while checking a container located on the premises of the business place, customs personnel discovered 63 packages of the illegal drug in 3 duffel bags and 2 polythene bags. The container was delivered to the business on Tuesday after arriving on the island from Jamaica.